Well, now it's once again time to try out what we've learned inside of our website project. So let's close up the files that we've been working on. And this time in our website project, we'll be working on a brand new page, but I've started out some of the HTML for us on this one, favoriteplaces.html. So let's open that up in our browser and in our text application. Now with this application, I've designed it primarily for the mobile audience, so I won't have to worry about things resizing or moving around too much. And for our tests, I'm just going to reduce the browser size down so it'll look a little bit more like it'll look inside the mobile device. As you can see, this app is going to save favorite places for our user. The way it'll work is this. They can use the Get Location button to find out where they're standing right now with their device. That'll load the latitude and longitude into these two boxes down here at the bottom of our form, and they can add in a place name and some notes and simply add that place to their list. We're going to store the data for them offline on their device, so it'll always be with them. And when they open up the app, it'll list all the places they have up here at the top and allow them to clear all places if they want to. We already have the geolocation stuff set up, so if I press the Get Location button right now, you can see it asks me to share my location. And if I say yes, it loads the latitude and longitude right up into our fields. And over in our code down at the bottom, you can see we have the Get Location function, and we're using the same geolocation script we saw in the previous chapter. So that part's already done. We've got a lot of tasks, so we'll break them down one at a time. And the first thing I want to do is set up what happens when the window first loads. This is where we want to set up all of the different variables that we want to keep in our local storage. And the first thing we should do is also make sure that local storage is available. We can do that by using the typeOf function, and in conjunction with an if statement, we can determine whether or not our user can store data. So let me go up to the window onLoad function, and I'll start off by making an if statement. For the condition, we're going to check the type of an object, which will tell us if it exists or not. So I'm going to use typeOf, and then ask it to check storage. This is where all of our local and session variables are located. Now, if that's undefined, that means the device can't use storage. So we'll use == undefined to check for that. And then let's set up our handling blocks. I'll need braces for the beginning of the if and the end. And then let's go ahead and add an else statement as well. And of course, we need braces for that too. Now here's how this will work. When we check typeOf storage, if the device is capable of storing elements, the type won't be undefined. So we'll be down in the else statement down here. And what I'd like to have happen is I'd like to have the initPlaces function called so we can set up all the places that our user has stored. If the type of storage does equal undefined, that means that the user's browser or device can't store local data. So we should alert them of that and stop the whole thing right there. I'll put up an alert statement. And inside there we'll place a message something like, your browser does not allow saving places. Now on the other side, I want the program to start initializing my places if we actually have a place stored. So we're going to have to start working with our local storage variables. What I'm going to do is create a local storage variable called count, and it'll tell me how many places I have stored. Inside the else statement, I'll write another if, and I'll check and see if the local storage.count variable that we're going to make is greater than 0. Remember, we need to convert it to a number because it's stored as text. I'll use my number function like that, and then I'll set it up as greater than 0 for my condition statement. That'll mean that we have some places stored. And then all I want to do is inside the if statement, I want to call our initPlaces function. And we'll set that up in a moment. At the top of our script window, I've already started out a few variables, and one is a local variable that we're going to be using to keep track of the count. We've also got arrays for places, notes, and latitude and longitudes, which match each one of the elements that we're going to be working with. The main role of our initPlaces function is to grab all of the saved data from local storage and convert it to elements that we can use inside of our code. So I'll start with the count variable up here at the top. Count will be our local variable out in the JavaScript world, but we're going to set that equal to our local storage variable count. And once again, since we want this to be a number, we're going to convert it into a number right here. Then let's look at all the other arrays. Our places array is going to be our normal array, and we're going to have a places also in the local storage. So let's set that up down here. Places will equal local storage dot places. And we're going to have the same thing for each one of our other arrays as well. So let me copy and paste that so I can make the typing a little faster. We need one for our notes array, and that's going to be local storage notes. And then we need one for our latitudes and longitude arrays as well. And we'll have them use the same name so we don't get confused. Next, we'll set up the function that actually adds the places to our database. I'll go down to the add place function. And for starters, let's just think about the new place name. First, we want to grab whatever is in the name field here that the user's typed in. Then, since our places have all been added into the local places variable, which is an array, we can push this new item into the array. Then, of course, we need to save that data back to the local storage. So let's set up the first one for the place name. I'll start by creating a variable called newPlace, and we'll use document getElementById to go into that newPlace field and extract the value. Then we want to take this new value and push it into our places array. So we'll go to places and call the push function and give it our newPlace variable. That'll put it at the end of the array. Then the last thing that we need to do is put this back into local storage so it's saved for the next time my user comes back to the site. So we'll go to our local storage variable, which we've also named places, and we're going to set this equal to our places array. Now there is one more important thing we need to add. So far, we've used our local storage variables for numbers and strings, but we noticed that we had to convert our data back to numbers whenever we pulled it out of local storage, because everything gets stored there as a string. Well, our places are much more complex than even numbers. They're arrays and they hold a number of different values. So we can't just drop an array into a local storage area, nor can we just pull a local storage area array out and expect it to act like an array. We're going to need to convert it into a string, store it as a string, and then convert it back. And luckily, there's a couple of functions that do just that. So I'm going to add it first into the add place function. The first thing we need to do is stringify our places array. That means turn it into a string so it can be stored in local storage. To do that, I just call a function. It's going to be JSON, which is all capital letters, dot stringify. We'll put places in parentheses for the function. And, as I said, calling this function will turn our complex array of items into a string, and then we can just store that string into our local storage. When we're pulling the local storage out, we need to do the opposite. And that's called parsing. So, up here in places, instead of just assigning that to the local storage places, we're also going to call a function. In this case, it's going to be a JSON function again, dot parse. And again, we'll put our local storage places into the parentheses. That'll take this big string and turn it back into an array. Now we need to do that for all of our arrays when we're setting them. So let me copy and paste this first part and we'll set that up. I'll paste that in the front of each one of these variable assignments. And since we have parentheses added, we'll have to go and clean up the end by adding a closed parentheses for each line as well. Of course, to finish up adding new places, we need to not only set the new place name, but we also need to set the notes, the latitude, and the longitude. We're going to do it the same way we set the name. So I'm going to copy this block of code. I'll paste it in 3 more times. And we'll update the names with the other variables. We'll have new note, which grabs the new note value. Then we'll put that into the notes array. And then we'll take our local storage notes and set that equal to the stringified notes array. I'll do the same thing with latitude and longitude. The last thing I need to do is update all of our local variables. I'll start with count. We'll up that by the value of 1, so I'll set count equal to its old value of count plus 1. Of course, I want to update the local storage version of that variable as well. And we'll just set that equal to count. And then we want to update all of our other variables. But we can do that with our initPlaces function. So I'm simply just going to call initPlaces again. That way, every time our user adds a new place, it'll update the variables so that they're all correct.